The second someone tells him there's like minerals there, and remember the rare earth stuff, but because he doesn't know anything about that either. Because remember in the Ukraine
raw
stuff,
earth,
he was referring to as raw earth.
He's still doing it,
and he's like raw dog minerals.
He wants to raw dog the earth.
He's trying to make it raw dog.
He's trying to make that work.
We know of new methods of attack. The Trojan horse, the fifth column.
Greetings and welcome back to another exciting installment of the Fifth Column podcast. This is your weekly rhetorical assault on the news cycle, the people that make it, occasionally ourselves. I'm Kmele Foster. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm in New York City, joined by Michael Moynihan, who's that one, Matt Welch, the other one. And gentlemen, it's good to see you. We were together for a little bit yesterday. We've been together a couple days this week, actually. How are you this afternoon, evening?
Tired of you guys is what I am.
Yeah. Well, that's understandable. Even though, I mean, yesterday was a nice day. We even watched part of a movie together.
We did.
Which was nice.
We did indeed.
We cuddled on the sofa.
You just told me about it. When I was gone, I left for a few minutes, and you guys apparently watched clips of a movie that I've never heard of, and
I'm
shocking.
Astonished that neither you or Matt Welch had seen Sicario, and apparently you hadn't even heard of it.
Never even heard of it.
Had you not heard of it either?
No.
Okay.
It was a thing that people say sometimes.
Well-regarded film.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's probably worth your time.
I'll watch it. I mean, it's not like one of those things where I'm like, oh, I don't own a TV. I literally just have never, I've also weirdly never seen Silence of the Lambs.
That's wow.
No, it's just like a big movie. I figured I'd see it. Yeah, not even
it's still strange.
Yeah, and it's not a decision.
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of Star Trek. I don't think one. Maybe I've seen clips, but I've never seen. Do you have a movie that you've? That everyone's seen that you've never.
I've admitted this many. I've admitted several of them on this podcast in the past. People look at me like I'm crazy. Like I saw Caddyshack for the first time a year ago or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on what holes are in my education right now, but like huge ones that are inexcusable. How did you not see this movie?
You saw like the first 15 minutes of Eddington yesterday.
So the first 15 minutes of Eddington,
very moving for you.
Not moving. I mean, it was. I don't like bowel movements are moving too, I guess, but you don't necessarily. Where am I going with this?
I don't know.
Yeah,
always comes back to that with this
going
guy.
Home. So
yeah,
by the way,
always comes back to that.
It was upsetting people. If you haven't seen Eddington, it begins in May 2020, and it's like COVID and a sheriff and masks and distancing, and like I was just brought back to a level of kind of anxiety and unhappiness that I actually don't ever want to go back to again. I don't want to. I mean, I will see it because I know it's important to see it, and it's actually important to kind of go through these things artistically and begin to process it. But I can feel like my blood pressure rising, and just that kind of there's a stifling emptiness of COVID. It was just sort of like everyone distance, scared, weird, being like nasty to one another, in personal ways and then like societal ways, and it's awful. Like I don't use the language of trauma, and I don't want to go that far with it, but like it's definitely I don't want to feel like that ever again. I just
so
don't.
Interesting. Like stifling emptiness, or is that what you said?
Yeah,
stifling
I think
emptiness.
so.
Like that is a really interesting phrase, and as you were talking, I was thinking, gosh, I mean, this is a pretty nerve-wracking time. We're today on pretty high alert, waiting for news of a potential strike in Iran. That
I don't want my
inevitable.
daughter to die in Greenland.
Greenland may be seized by the Trump administration, who is actively meeting with leaders of Denmark and Greenland today. We've got a tariff decision coming, and a bunch of other like strange things are happening. All of the ICE consternation.
When do you think Donald Trump figured out that Denmark was in any way associated with Greenland?
Maybe
like
today.
When? Like the first time in 2019?
Yeah, it did come up.
He's probably not.
Yeah, but I don't think he knew that in 2018.
Maybe. He's been obsessed with Greenland for a very long time. So maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think 2019 was the first time he mentioned it, right? Wasn't that right? The first time?
I think it was late first administration.
Yeah.
And
the second someone tells him there's like minerals there. And remember the rare earth stuff, because he doesn't know anything about that either. Because remember in the Ukraine
raw
stuff,
earth,
he was referring to as raw earth.
He's still doing it,
and he's like raw dog minerals.
He wants to raw dog the earth. He's trying to make that work. But I mentioned that stuff because I mean, you mentioned like the stifling emptiness. there is something strange about watching people queue in line to get food. And I'd kind of, watching it again for the second time, I'd forgotten that the weirdness of COVID was being, most jarring thing is being ripped out of their everyday life, like the normalcy of it. Yeah. Today, I left the building, I went out and I did some shopping, and you can do that, despite the fact that there's all this crazy uncertainty. Correct. You couldn't do that at the moment. No. So all you could think about was the prevailing uncertainty and the madness and the fact that, today there are ICE raids that are happening and people who are being stopped for their papers on regular streets in their everyday life. That is weird and strange for them, but you are removed from it. Right. And in a way, you could not escape the weirdness of that moment.
Right. Like you can choose not to pay attention to things that are going on now, and you can if you don't live in one of usually kind of a small handful of cities that are being targeted at any given time. Weirdly, like New York hasn't been targeted yet. Mamdani and Trump, I think, have each other on speed dial.
Well, they're texting regularly.
And also, maybe Trump's just waiting for the right moment. I don't know. I don't want to get it. I think
that with that texting, I can imagine like the Reverend Sun Myung Moon taking the LA Dodger Stadium and having those mass marriages. Oh yeah, I think we're all going to convert to Islam soon. It's going to be a mass. Tucker is going to run the ceremony. It's going to be No, I wanted to actually read this because I never read emails from trolls, and we have some aggressive trolls because I never read anything on Twitter. I never read the ats. I don't read nothing.
Does anyone believe him? I think he's lying.
It is 100%
true. With an asterisk. I mean, occasionally you read something.
No, unless someone sends it to me. Yeah. I don't. If I click on my mentions on Twitter by mistake, which I've done, I throw my phone out the window. I don't want to be anywhere close to it.
So it's right now just 20 plus.
The column you reread.
I read those. Different. But I wanted as a COVID thing that came up recently.
Oh, no.
And this is this guy who, it's like, dude, what do you do with your life besides send us annoyed emails?
Oh, it's that guy?
I mean, we have a lot of them, but this one is like, and this is the COVID thing. And this was reminded me watching Eddington. I was like, who's that asshole that sent this stupid fucking email? And this is, by the way, what happens. Number one, why the fuck do you listen to the show? Number one. Number two, because it's amazing. That's why.
We like when you listen.
I don't give a fuck if this guy listens. Number two.
Attitude problem.
No, it's just like you send cunty emails to people you don't know. That's a bad thing in life. You've gone wrong in your life. If you have enough time to do that, start playing racquetball. Honestly, do something.
Good sport, noble sport. Sport of kings.
But this, I thought, was when politics have rotted your brain. When you say, MN mentioned a few minutes later, because I think he attacks Kmele above this.
Oh, good.
That we, quote, haven't had a reckoning over COVID policy. And I've mentioned this a million times about the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. Really? What exactly does a reckoning look like to you? Do you want all the liberal lawmakers that overreached during that time to get down on their knees and apologize to you because the schools were closed for too long? That's Matt, by the way, and he absolutely does. Actually, that's not happening. The reckoning, the reckoning was that Glenn Youngkin won in Virginia in 2021, and that the Republican governor of Nevada, with whatever his name is, you couldn't fucking Google it, dude. After 10,000 word email, you couldn't.
Is this in all caps?
No, it just reads that way. And now Jay Bhattacharya, misspelled, author of the Great Barrington Declaration, thank you for that tip, is the head of the NIH. That's your reckoning. You kind of won. Congrats. Look, dummy. Here's the thing about this. That's your reckoning. That's not what I'm talking about, because I don't live in the world marinating in Twitter politics all the time. Youngkin and this, it's like, I want this not to happen again in a next pandemic, right? I'm not talking about who wins the election. I'm literally thinking, because that is somebody who understands in a way, and they might be right about this, that the debate in DC is so poisoned that you couldn't have a reckoning about this to understand what went wrong policy-wise, and in the future, how do we not replicate this? And the guy won, so therefore we're done. It's like, no, it's ridiculous. That's not how it works.
As a matter of fact, part of that reckoning is that how did the backlash of that seat conspiratorial kook like RFK in government, making idiotic policies and pro salmon and steak commercials on and reinverting the food pyramid? That's a terrible outcome. It's like the thing that you
maybe a reckoning would have prevented that.
A reckoning
in some
might
way.
prevent that kind of
I don't know.
shit. Like you don't want to have a conspiracy theorist like suddenly telling you, screaming about Tylenol and telling the president of the United States to scream about like how pregnant women shouldn't take Tylenol.
Yeah.
What? Stop telling me about Tylenol unless you've got some new information, which you don't.
If you tell him to stop talking about Tylenol, he's then going to be like, the chemtrails that are up there in the clouds are really fucking us all up. And it's like, is that the voice from the chemtrails? Like, what is happening? Like a reckoning is not about like that's like you're talking about like political vengeance of like getting those people out. Fine, necessary, but I'm literally talking about. Because I don't think people in Trump universe, Twitter universe, the internet plus Trump can imagine that you can have an honest, good faith conversation about policy failures when it comes to a pandemic and maybe what went wrong. I mean, is there a congressional hearing about schools, for instance, right? Should we get somebody in front of that committee from Sweden to talk about the Swedish example and like, okay, maybe it doesn't penetrate. I think it's necessary, and I think it would be a useful exercise. And to see that only, and why would I ever read some useless troll's email like this? Because I haven't read an email, and we get a lot of them, where somebody so fundamentally misunderstood the purpose of saying we should have had a reckoning with policy decisions during a time that was very disruptive to Americans, to business, to the economy, to our mental health, to a million things. Yeah. That consequential that Matt, when we were watching Eddington last night, 15 minutes in or 10 minutes in was like, I can't, or as you said, I can't believe there aren't more movies about this. Like we've not really put this on film in any way. And it was like, and maybe it is that people want to not reckon and to forget. But the job of the government is to not assuage the feelings of the American people. Like, we want to put this bias behind us. You can do that, but we should investigate a lot of things.
If you made catastrophic mistakes, I mean, think of, take for the South African example out of it for right now, but think about when the first space shuttle Challenger blew up. What did we do? We had Richard Feynman go and testify and be part of, and like, let's talk about the kind of mistakes in the chain that led us here, the process mistakes that led us here. I mean, there's, in the case of schools, and I'll stop talking about it because it irritates our questioner, but like at some point in the recreation of school policy in 2021, we decided that the administration that just ran on letting the science decided to let the teachers unions come in and say what the science was. And it had predictable outcomes, which was bad. It was for the interest of the teachers unions, not in the interest of what the rest of the world was looking like. And if your information that's coming in is giving you bad information, or it's causing officials to lie, or they're volunteering to lie, that's a problem. And you should figure out like how you got to that place and to not go there again. And there's a lot of elements on every side of people who've held power. I don't think there is more than, you probably can't count on one hand the number of people who didn't make some grievous policy error about COVID. It was a difficult policy question. It is. So what do you do about it? Like even Ron DeSantis, who I think has a great record on this, also used a pretty heavy hand on that record too sometimes, telling other like cities and localities and institutions what they could and couldn't do, maybe in ways that I felt a little bit uncomfortable with. But that's also interesting. Like, what did you get right and wrong is totally fine. And it's not limited to fucking COVID. It's about exactly political violence right now.
Well,
it's about replacing the information system that has collapsed and replacing that not with new information systems that are good about getting information into politicians, but instead electing populists or privileging populists and having them just sort of decide like my interpretation of populism is invade Greenland.
And the credibility continues to collapse.
Let's get to the crazy bullshit that happens in the past 24 hours and not necessarily the past 5 years. But the final sentence is we collectively don't like too much secrecy, government secrecy. I have recommended my namesake, Daniel Patrick Moynihan's book that Yale University Press put out on this book. It's very, very good. I would just like to know, finally, what the intelligence community believes about the lab leak theory, for instance. I would just like to know. I don't know.
Seems consequential.
I've seen a million different interpretations of this. I you can't trust so many of these people's interpretations of this. A lot of it is on background and stuff. Do we have an assessment 5 years later, which, intelligence assessments, one would presume, are informed by informants, by people that are getting it? Like, I would like to know that.
Yeah.
That'd be really interesting to find out, because that would kind of change how I looked at a lot of things. But anyway, but Greenland's going to be invaded. So there's that.
We've got the Greenland stuff. Well, I wonder, are you guys? We just talked about Minnesota on the members only, and you should know, good people, especially if this is your first time listening to the podcast. There's an audio version of the podcast. You can find us at wethefifth.com. And we did have Anna Kasparian this week, and had I thought a really interesting episode with her. We're able to have some. It did not turn into a horrible slap fest or anything like that. People weren't screaming and trying to murder each other.
It's like when I was
interesting.
When I got back together with a girlfriend, and I was like, we're going to have dinner tonight, but we're just not going to talk about the fact that I cheated on you, because it just would be bad. That was what Israel was here.
We got there a little bit.
We'll have a good time if we don't talk about the Israel stuff.
Well, I thought we got to it in a good, helpful, illuminating way. But
benefit for me is I have not followed. I'm not even joking on this. I have not followed what she has said, I don't. Not even subsequently. I don't know what she even really. I know that what people think about her Israel positions, which presumably means that I would absolutely oppose them too. But I actually haven't paid much attention, to be honest.
I do know that she is, like many thousands of you, are a paid subscriber now. She's in our comments.
Wow.
She's out there.
Or she has access to the comments.
Wait, is she
can
actually
happen without being a paid
on
subscriber.
People,
we have ways.
All right. Well, she went in there and said, "I know you people hate me, but," so she's swinging elbows. She's
not everyone.
She hasn't learned the Ben Dreyfuss way of getting into our comments and chat, which is to whine hilariously about not being invited on the show, and to point out that his co-host Josh Barrow is a homosexual. Maybe we didn't know that.
Yeah, but the thing is,
we did know that.
The thing is, it's not going to get him back on the show, because every time he whines about not being on the show, it's really funny, and I want him to keep whining.
It's
about
really
not being
funny.
on the
It's
show.
the bad
the best way to continue it is prevent him from being on the show. I'm sorry, Ben.
But I wanted to bring up maybe the Renee Goode shooting again, and the specific reason is because, Matt, as you mentioned the space shuttle disaster a little while ago and the Challenger disaster, when you hear that, you usually think O-ring. You don't think about a particular person.
Right.
There was no one who was, maybe there were people who were hung out to dry, who lost their jobs in that circumstance, but you have a sense of what went wrong, procedures were changed, and particular causes were identified. And here we are, a week and some days removed from that shooting, and we've got protests in the street. ICE has surged into the region. There are more stops happening. There are more civilians getting into these rough entanglements with ICE officers and being dragged off in heinous ways. There are more American citizens who are finding themselves tussling with ICE officers, people getting stopped on the street for their papers. We're not having any conversations about kind of procedures in general, for the most part, among the protesters, but there have been actually some reports. And there have been some interesting conversations about how we got to here over the course of the past year or so. And it's the surge in hiring. We know that we went from somewhere around 10,000 ICE officers to reportedly around 20,000 based on what the Trump administration has said. They're probably inflating the numbers. It sounds like it's closer to 8,000. We know that training timetables have gone from something like 5 to 6 months to train an ICE officer to something that is better stated in days or weeks, which, to the extent all of that is happening and you're surging them into what are necessarily more contentious, confrontational circumstances with angry Americans who polling now suggests ICE is sufficiently unpopular that many Americans are like, we should not have this anymore.
Sending them into sanctuary cities that are run by Democrats.
And they are stopping people on the street, asking them for their papers, making them more and more irate. You see the videos, it's clear. They stop people. Who are you? Where are you going? And they just take out their phone and say, fuck you. And they're citizens.
It's unconstitutional from the beginning. But when you kind of take this apart and think about how any American citizen could be detained, there's no way, if you're doing this in the proper way, which is identifying the person, asking them for ID. I mean, tell me how many of these American citizens have ID on them. Probably all of them. I mean, it's very, very rare that one would be driving a car without an ID, right? That happens, and it shouldn't happen, right? And you get a ticket, you get arrested, whatever. The number of times this is happening is that if you're targeting an individual and you have the wrong person and you detain the wrong person, you should get fired, right?
And how many of
you
these
should get
people
fired
have been
immediately.
fired?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you're arresting the wrong person. And we've heard about this of people that have been jailed for 5 days, 6 days, 8 days, 25 days. Anybody in that chain of command should be thrown out of the service at the very, very least. I mean, this is insane that this happens. But how do you do that? The only way you can get to that conclusion that American citizens, like the guy that we mentioned on the members only episode, who was at Target, who was like 17, and maybe he doesn't have an ID because maybe he doesn't have a driver's license, tackled, says, I'm an American citizen, and then they sort it out and they drop him off at a Walmart like a mile away. How is that person in handcuffs in the back of a car before you've confirmed that he's an American citizen? Like, if it's not even like, well, you don't make an omelet without breaking a couple eggs. One of the things that these dummies don't understand is that, as you pointed out, as Kmele just pointed out, the public opinion on this stuff is absolutely in the toilet, right? And it's not in the toilet because it's a policy that people oppose. If you look at people's opinions prior to all this stuff about immigration enforcement, which is an enormous issue in creating a second Donald Trump term, those were very, very high numbers. How did you manage to get it from here to here? How did you get Joe Rogan to be like, you can just walk across the border? What is this policy, Joe Biden? To being on his show going, what is happening here? That we are becoming this police state where people are being tackled on the streets. I mean, it's not a police state. It's the actions of a police state. Because people can still sit there and film them and they can, but it's very, very unnerving that this stuff is happening beyond the shooting, right? In all the stuff that I've seen after that, and it's not to judge which is right and which is wrong, but when you say, well, the officer was dragged in an apprehension, yes, that appears to be true. There's a video of it.
In some months prior,
Your job as an agent is to internalize that stuff and say, okay, move it. If that affects you, that you're shooting someone the next time, you're not cut out for this job.
Take a break.
Yes, I feel bad that you were dragged. I think you shouldn't have been dragged. That's crazy. I'm sure it had an emotional effect on you. But you're an officer of the law, and every time something happens to you that has like an echo, it's like, this is like, emo culture. Like, well, it happened to me. I'm going to shoot the next person. You're not capable of doing this job. Then.
Do you find it strange that we know about that encounter? And presumably the reason we know that is because Homeland thought if we tell them, well, this had happened to him before, at least he's been on the force for a while. He's had a traumatic experience. But we don't know how long he's been on the force.
No.
He very well could be a new hire, which suggests that in at least 2 instances, he's had these weird interactions with citizens that also involved him maybe getting hurt by a car. He went and stepped in front of the car.
Yeah.
It's a weird circumstance. There are questions about procedure here related to him. Do you think it's strange that we don't know more about this particular officer and his record?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And also that I know they're putting that stuff out there to contextualize it. But if you watch any police interactions, like body cam stuff, they're dealing with people that would be traumatizing them all day, every day. That's part of policing, right? And you have to have that kind of iron. It's not for everyone, right?
Right.
To be like, okay, this guy punched me in the face. Like, I can't punch the next person in the face as a preemptive thing because the last guy punched me in the face.
Yeah.
This basic stuff that we see with this, like stepping in front of the car. And people talk about the woman who was shot shouldn't have done the things that she did. But that doesn't mean that the result of that is getting shot in the face 3 times. I cannot believe we're at a place where that actually has to be explained to people. But the thing that drives me absolutely batty about all this stuff is you understand that police don't speed through neighborhoods anymore. There's ordinances for police departments, the no chase stuff, right? There's certain places have different policies, and if it's a highway, it's different, et cetera. But because it endangers other people. But it's like there is a policy: don't step in front of the car. When the woman's trying to drive away from you, she shouldn't be doing that. But you let her go. Maybe radio the local police, pursue her because she's interfering with law enforcement, and that's the crime. Do that, but stepping in front. There's things that police are not supposed to do because they end up badly more often than not. And, I'm not an expert in policing. We have a lot of people who watch and listen who are. But I think that maybe one of the things about it is keeping this guy out of the Derek Chauvin I think that I've seen a few kind of suggestions like
here he is.
Here he is. Go
you
get
know what
him.
to do. Yeah,
you know what to do. And like Bill Ackman's giving this guy money. And good Lord, I mean, I'm almost going to run for office in the West Bank because everything Bill Ackman says is reliably wrong. I'm like, maybe I'm on the wrong side
Not
of all
everything.
these issues.
Not everything.
No, but this,
I think a source of frustration for me, and I've been writing about immigration politics and policy for 30 years now, 30, is that all of this as categories is utterly predictable, including the fall of public support. Yes, there's public support for controlling the chaos in the border, kicking out violent criminals, sharing information, locals and the feds, if the locals have information that these criminals are illegal immigrants, that information sharing should be happening and those people should be deported. All of those are hugely popular. But what was never hugely popular was going to Target and just pulling people out of the parking lot. That was never. Or deporting people who have citizen families here, who are married to U.S. citizens.
Employees of Target, right? Was that last one actually an employee?
I think it was a pair of guys who were Target employees who were having an interaction with the ICE agents. We don't know exactly how it started. We just know that they started filming them. But Homeland actually did issue a statement about this particular incident and suggested, well, these guys were, there was some sort of assault that had taken place. It isn't at all clear from the video that there was an assault. Yeah,
I mean, a big problem is that a lot of Homeland Security's and ICE's claims about events, and including sometimes sworn testimony about it in front of courts. They've been rebuked several times by several judges. Like, stop making shit up. You're lying a lot. That's bad. You're not supposed to do that. A video has revealed, not necessarily in the shooting case, although Donald Trump came out of the bat just lying, and also trying to smear this woman as a domestic terrorist, which J.D. Vance has also done. But there's a credibility problem in all of this. But again, we knew that if you suddenly surge, because it's happened in the past, Border Patrol in various times of sort of anti-immigration sentiment has got a ton of money real quick, hire a bunch of people. Those people tend to be not as good as the people that you had on the force. When you hire quickly law enforcement, it's going to lead to greater complaints against that law enforcement.
Isn't it even worse now when you have a world in which all the ICE raids, this is like a video game online. I mean, people are watching this stuff on social media and like even Facebook. If you ever check into Facebook, it's happening there and people are like, go get them. There's a certain kind of,
their side.
And you know that there's a lot of people that are probably going into ICE and trying to fill those vacancies who are kind of go get them types.
I mean, their ICE is advertising during South Park. Unless I'm mistaken.
Have you not seen the ad?
Well,
we definitely have that clip.
Yeah, we definitely have the South Park video. Let's take a look at that.
Are you looking for a new career? Why not join the ICE? We have jobs available now with up to a $50,000 signing bonus. Signing bonus? We don't ask for experience, just show up. We don't care if you've read a book or grown up. If you're crazy or fat and lazy, we don't care at all.
I'm proud to work for the ICE.
Immigration and customs enforcement. If you need a job, it's a job to have.
I mean,
I actually hadn't seen that.
It's almost
is that this week?
No, that's like from this. I mean, this is South Park once again being prescient. I think that's from like June or July.
But I think weren't they like sort of retweeting this and saying, yeah, you can join ICE? Like they responded in a
lean into
humorous and like, yes, that's totally fine to do. But so you're hiring all these people at once. You are deliberately going out, not even just to chicken factories, processed factories, where there's going to be a huge percentage of illegal
immigrants. Or actually, they're deliberately not doing that.
They're not going.
Case, as Donald Trump said, we will not.
Yeah.
You can be illegal, but don't harm a certain constituency of mine, which is farmers who are having a hard time. And they said, we're not doing that. Like Donald Trump specifically said.
They're going to MacArthur Park in LA. They're going to places where that there's going to be illegal immigrants.
And hippies.
And hippies, if possible. And they're putting everyone in chaotic troubling situations. So there's going to be shootings. There's going to be violence. On both sides there's going to be violence. And there has been. It's totally predictable, as is the fact that I don't know any exception to the rule that if you do anything significant increase in an enforcement against illegal immigration, it is always, and I mean always, going to affect U.S. citizens. Think about the fact that 2/3 of the population, including us, live in a place where we are subject to border control checkpoints. We're subject to it. If they wanted to, they could get us as we walk out of this building and say, we're going to need you to see your ID. And you have to do a lot of verbal gymnastics in order to say, I don't need to show you that. If you're in a car, you're pretty screwed.
Well, it works if they know the law, it works.
Well, that's the thing.
But you have to know it perfectly.
I mean, if they know the law, because you know it, and
but
they
this is the
don't.
thing.
They think they have
this is the
impunity
most
right now.
important thing. And it's like you watch the South Park thing, which is very funny. And it's like we have no training. That being the joke, and like every guy, just magically getting a gun in their head. And it's about that, right? It's about, we don't have training.
A gun
on
and
how,
a mask. Yeah.
How to de-escalate, how to, apprehend people. The most important training to start with is constitutional training. These people have no constitutional knowledge. And I've seen interactions in these videos where people are arguing with them and they clearly don't understand basic constitutional protections for people, and by the way, this is the thing, FIRE talks about this. Even if you are an illegal immigrant, you do have constitutional protections in the United States. You have free speech rights. You have freedom.
You can film the police.
You can film the police. Yeah, you can film the police.
Which the DHS agents are often saying, "Oh, you don't have the right to do that. Take that down. Stop doing that."
That is the knowledge or an idea that people had 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, this deep into everyone having a body cam in their pocket, that if you don't know that, good Lord, you shouldn't be anywhere near any uniform except for maybe a Wendy's uniform. I mean, the fact that people are doing, like, this stuff is completely insane. We have actually, Jason just brought this clip up. I wonder if we actually look at this. Is this the Target one?
This is the Target one.
We have a bunch of Target ones. We don't even know which one this is.
And it's a lengthier clip. Maybe we watch it and cut it.
You doing all right?
Huh? I'm not doing all right.
What's that?
I'm not doing all right. I'm not doing all right.
I can't hear
Back
what
up.
you're saying. What's that?
Yo. See that? Look, they're recording. We're here. What y'all doing? Yo, back up.
What's that?
You good?
Oh, absolutely.
Your face.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, back up. I'm walking here. Back up.
Like that. Good show.
Hey, that's not a nice
I
guy.
don't give a fuck.
Good.
Fuck you and fuck all y'all. What you gonna do?
Hey, you guys American citizens?
Fuck you.
Huh?
American citizens?
None of your business. That's what.
There's a wall there.
Fuck you.
All right.
I don't think these kids really
See that?
realized what was going on. They'd be like encircling you.
Yeah.
Blocking traffic. Blocking traffic. Look at that. Bunch of y'all right there. Fuck every single one of y'all. Look at that.
Just gonna get a pic. Hold on.
Go ahead, take a pic right there.
There we go. All right. Let me get one of this guy here. Appreciate that.
That.
Now, that sounds like a good strategy.
Fuck you.
Not a good story.
Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. There you go.
Hey, don't touch him. Don't touch him. What are you doing? Come on. Yo.
I work here, bro.
Yeah, he works.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
Look at that.
Fuck you.
You got to work on your backpedaling speed. Oh, whoa!
Look at that. Look, look, they're grabbing him. Look, they're grabbing him. Yo, let him go, let him go, let him go.
That's actually a pretty interesting example, by the way. Because those two kids are fucking idiots. They're within their constitutional rights to insult these people. These guys are not prepared for that in any way. And, you have to be like a politician walking through the gauntlet of people after you've voted on a controversial bill, saying, fuck you, you lose, just head down, keep walking, right? They are guys that are waiting for something. But if you notice in the last frame of that, by the way, the guy walks in front of him, the Target kid, like, you can't come in here, don't do that. I mean, this is basic stuff. understand the Constitution as these fucking guys who are clearly goons. Like, I want to take a picture of you. Why? Why do you want to take a picture of me? Because I'm insulting you? Just in case you're an illegal, like, that's not how we find people who are in the country illegally. If they've insulted me, run their photo. That's like authoritarian bullshit. But when you are doing things like when he stepped in front, don't do that, number one. Number two, Target should fire that kid.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's like, I work here. It's like, you're not in the building working.
Yeah.
You're antagonizing
law
It's not
enforcement
unconstitutional. It's not illegal.
Yeah, it's not
But
a
as
good
an
idea.
employer, like, what
Yeah.
the fuck are you guys doing? Like, why are you, like, you can hold these two things in your head at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to drive around these guys. Wait for them to pull you out of the car and fucking sue them.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to work for a long time because the judge is going to be on your side. If the only thing you've been doing is jawing at someone and they smash your window and pull you out, that's fire will defend you. There's
which
a lot
is
of
happening.
people-
Is the
which is
thing.
happening. Of course it's
just
happening.
happening.
And that's why I said wait for it to happen. It's
Yeah.
incredible that I would say that because it will happen, unfortunately, in these situations. But that's a lesson for a bunch of people.
Have you guys seen this one? This
one's pretty-
This is interesting.
This one's
Yeah.
pretty great. It goes pretty long, but this is they pull over.
This is the MST3K of ICE videos. Is that what we're doing now?
Kinda.
Let's do one after another.
Get the fuck on the car before you get fucking arrested.
I'm not.
Get the fuck on the car before you get fucking
assault.
Don't move, you're gonna get fucking tased. Don't fucking move or you're gonna get tased. Because you want to be an idiot.
I'm not moving,
Because you want to be a fucking
You're a
idiot.
fucking pussy.
You're a fucking bitch. And you're gonna learn the fucking hard way.
Very professional.
It's escalating.
Just asked you for an ID. That
I don't give a fuck what you asked me for, bitch.
Shut up.
You shut up, bitch. What the fuck wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
He has a gun on him. Look at that.
A fully registered firearm. Because I'm a U.S. citizen. What's wrong with y'all? Wow.
Like, that dude against any of those three, I'd know who's going to win the fight.
This is the least. I cannot believe that they let this happen.
They're just throwing the gun.
Throwing the gun
Watch
on.
the change in tone from the little ice.
That's a wax.
Literally just
Throwing a gun onto.
I mean, he obviously took the magazine out. It looks like.
He did, but that's still not how you handle a gun.
No, by the way, I didn't hear him chamber it to see if there was one in the chamber.
I'm gonna let you the fuck alone. Y'all are some real fucking scumbags. You know that,
I'm
right?
a scumbag?
Yes.
You just acted
You're
like
a fucking scumbag.
You're a fucking U.S. citizen. You shouldn't have done that.
What made you get into this fucking profession? Why are you so mad at Why are you so mad at immigrants? What did they do to you?
The Obama administration managed to deport lots and lots of people, and they managed to do it without creating perpetual scandal. I don't remember there being perpetual scandal.
It's different. I mean, there's a shock and awe element to this.
Deliberately,
and that Obama wasn't necessarily trying to do, although I think sometimes he was. Both Obama and George W. Bush at various times when the Congressional Comprehensive Immigration Reform broke down. They were like, okay, you made us do it. We're going to enforce people a lot now.
Yeah.
But they didn't usually lead to those types of street scenes. That is what's new and very upsetting to people. And again, you're targeting not the chicken plant. You're targeting people who kind of look Mexican.
That's actually really interesting about that clip is that these clips have to be treated very carefully in the sense that
we don't know what preceded them.
Why was this guy stopped?
Yeah.
Was he asked for his papers and he said no, which he has every fucking right to do. And he might have a right to carry that gun. Fully registered gun doesn't mean anything. Does he have a concealed carry permit? Is that because it's a totally different thing?
He sounds confident.
He sounds confident, and he can they're like, oh, he's got a gun. The first thing is I don't guarantee, but I have a feeling that the stop, if that guy was an American citizen, it seems like he is. I mean, if he wasn't, they would probably be posting about it every fucking day on Homeland Security and Border Patrol and ICE social media. That's the first thing. The second thing is that people who have this sense of like, I love law enforcement, are also the people who love the January 6th guys who beat the shit out of law enforcement and hit them with American flags or back the blue flags. But if you love law enforcement, if you have a respect for law enforcement, I have a deep respect for so many people who do that job. It's an extremely difficult job, extremely stressful job, in one where they don't get paid enough, right? You fucking hate these guys. You absolutely hate these guys. I don't know how, like, if you watch like body cam video, just do it. To watch the interactions that police have. The incredible thing about body cam footage that you will see is the unbelievable patience of most police officers.
And just keep in mind, everyone, Michael watches these videos to calm himself before going to bed. Body cam
I told
videos.
you that if there's like a really bad guy in the description, it says he was transported to the hospital, didn't make it. I call that a happy ending. I'm like, oh, there's the happy ending video. Bad guys only. You like bad guys? Okay. Fucking commie. No, but
Homeland keeps telling us most of these people are bad. They were assaulted.
Prove it.
Yeah, this is
Show me.
vehicular terrorists.
No, it's like
They have come up with lists of like, we've in the Minnesota Dragnet, we found some of the worst Here's their details.
But that was the promise at the beginning. The promise that I am 1,000% behind.
And Americans are too.
It's like Americans are behind this. Bad guys, like people that are rapists, that are gang members, that are habitual criminals, or even just occasional criminals. Why is this guy even interacting with the police? You know what? If you watch the body cam videos, I mean, it's honestly true. The percentage of people going, "You're a bitch," is about 98%. The percent of officers responding, almost never. They're just like, all right, buddy, I'm a bitch.
These are a normal cop.
Normal cops who have
situation,
it's not even
not
actual
ICE
training.
people. Yeah.
They have experience.
Yeah.
They deal with this shit all the time. They understand the repercussions of stuff. These motherfuckers should be wearing body cams. Every one of them should be wearing body cams.
Should be
and not
identifiable.
just this, because how much of the stuff is getting through that's not. In my problem with these guys throwing a gun. Yeah, the magazine's out. Is there one in the chamber throwing the guy's shit everywhere? It's insane. Like, this is very unprofessional.
Can I ask you guys a question? And I want to get to Iran and some other stuff because I'm desperate to kind of get your perspectives on it. But New York, you mentioned earlier, I think it was you, Matt, that this hasn't happened in New York yet. And Mamdani and Trump are texting. Is that the reason why? And I've seen Ferry and a bunch of other people in Minnesota out doing the media. They're angry, and you can tell. I mean, right away, Ferry is like, "Fuck you, get the fuck out." I get all of that, but I also wonder about, and like I've been talking to some people
mean
about
Fry,
the protests.
Jacob Fry.
Fry.
Yeah.
Yes. What did I say?
Yeah, I just thought you said Ferry.
Did I?
I was like,
that
oh,
is
I mean,
not a
I know he's got the
Freudian
little
slip.
ringlet.
Yeah,
Hair.
it's just Ferry is
There's
strong
an F
language.
and a Y. It's whatever. But let it stand, actually. But do they have an obligation to try and calm things down? Is the Mamdani approach of having a conversation with the administration and engaging with them routinely perhaps a good way to ensure that things don't escalate in your area? Maybe, and perhaps this is related to some of Trump's approach to foreign policy, you've seen how badly things can go with this particular administration, both because they are so aggressive and assertive and sloppy. Maybe if you can cooperate and say, look, let's identify the worst of the worst. Let's work together to make certain that you guys can target them and we don't have a nasty scene here. Do they not have an obligation to try to have a productive relationship
I'm
with the
happy
administration?
that they're talking on text and presumably about this. But the enforcement of federal law is not a negotiating chip.
I agree.
It's insane to think about this of like, well, he's a good guy to me. I won't enforce it here. I need their votes with the farmers, and I already had to bail them out for $18 billion. I won't enforce it there. Oh, Mamdani's going to do something nice for me. So I'll maybe put that on the back burner and focus on Minneapolis because those guys have the scandal that all of my MAGA types are foaming at the mouth over. And if I do it there to punish everyone, whether it's Waltz or Fry or Ilhan Omar, whatever, we're going to do it there as a symbolic thing. The use of federal forces and their forces for political purposes or
with
negotiations
you, but I mean,
is nuts.
But isn't it just good political leadership to try and find a way through this? Because you can escalate, you can be angry.
I don't think that Mayor Fry, not Mayor Ferry.
Maybe it should be.
goddamn homophobe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Baby, you're a rich man too.
Is he a gay?
Is
he a gay?
Is he a gay?
Well, you remember the GoFundMe for the officer?
Oh yeah.
When it was like the officer.
Oh, he is Jewish. We know he's Jewish.
They're like, he's being persecuted by Mayor Jacob Frey, a Jew. And I was like, oh, right.
Really?
And then yeah. And it was like
we're in a great place, America.
The woman who
doing
made that
strong.
Fall of Minneapolis documentary was the one who was like promoting it. And the only thing that I saw later is that Jake Tapper pointed this out, and she was like, "Actually, this is the link now." And I'm like, "Oh, it's the one."
I mean,
That's the one without
it's
the anti-Semitism.
entirely possible, maybe even likely, that they're not reading the contents of the description before they.
You should.
But they should.
How it always
They
happens.
should give it money.
But you were saying, man.
So, I mean, when I interviewed Karen Bass, who, mayor of a city where there was stepped up and kind of nerve-rattling federal enforcement, ICE enforcement, plus sending of the National Guard and the Marines against the wishes of local leadership. That's a lot of stuff going on right there, and a lot of reason to get your hackles up and to say kind of like, get the hell out of here type of comments, which both she and Gavin Newsom did to various extents. But she and I, in addition to talking about real estate for a long time, talked about sanctuary cities. And I advise people to go and look at that. It's sort of interesting and frustrating back and forth, because my question was kind of in the spirit of yours, which is that I know the history of sanctuary cities, something I've written about a lot. Rudy Giuliani was in favor of sanctuary cities with the idea that you wouldn't immediately check the immigration status of everyone who interacts with law enforcement and public health and in the government, because if you do, they are not going to cooperate with the cops to say the bad guy is running this way because they think they're going to get deported, right? That's the kind of concept of it. The Rampart scandal, of which there's been so many great movies and conspiracy theories made about, is at heart an immigration enforcement scandal. This was a anti-gang unit in MacArthur Park, or near MacArthur Park in the Rampart area, who used the fear of being deported to convince bad guys, usually, and illegal immigrants, to cop to murders they didn't commit, or to attempted murders they didn't commit. They used this sort of abuse. So you have sanctuary cities, at least in the beginning, in part for this, so that they cooperate. That has now devolved in a lot of places where it's a defiant democratic thing to say, we're just not going to cooperate with the feds, even if we have. And I tried to get this out of her, and it was unsuccessful. So if you have a violent criminal in your system and that person is an illegal immigrant, are you sharing that information with the federal government? Because I think you should, right? If you're in jail because you did a violence and you're an illegal immigrant, that I think it's incumbent upon Democrats. So in that sense, yes, I think they should be leading the way. If they are not, if their sanctuary policies are protecting that, they should revisit those and change them, or in some ways proactively cooperate.
But as far as and you've said this a lot and written about the origin of sanctuary cities, which turned into something very different and had far worse effects in the long run than it had short-term benefits at the beginning, as far as I can tell. You've written about this.
I don't know how to measure
It's hard
that.
to quantify that stuff. But what it has become is stupid. It is wrong. It makes American citizens angry. And I agree with those who find those types of policies odious. I agree with the idea of getting these people into the backs of cars and onto buses or planes out of the country if they're committing crimes, if they're members of gangs, if they have bullshit, claims of political persecution at home for some and come here and do terrible things. That stuff's all pretty basic. The problem is in our political culture now, we can't separate that. They say, you're against these kinds of ICE raids, so you're some sort of hippie that wants the border open. No, I think this is bad for border enforcement. It's bad for Republican policy on immigration, and it's going to have bad effects down the line. But to the point where Kmele was saying, the Mamdani communications with Trump, that kind of bargaining really has, and I know that there's lots of types of bargaining on federal issues, but it just leaves a very bad taste in my mouth. In the same way, and this is a very weird parallel, but I was thinking about this morning, the same way, the Menendez brothers are going to get a special hearing because there was a Netflix documentary. You know, like there's so many people that have committed crimes that maybe they didn't commit. And they're going to rot in prison because they don't have the money, they don't have the resources, they don't have the lawyers. But a little documentary, let's revisit this one. It's like, the relationship with Mamdani, we need something else. Let's maybe
the people getting pardons from Trump because they agreed to donate $1 million to this or that.
That's I mean, that's just the obvious. Like I don't think it's worth pointing out things that are that obvious.
Yeah.
But is that kind of negotiation on immigration stuff? Like, am I alone in thinking that?
No, and I want to be very clear. I don't know that they have talked about this at all.
Oh, no, I don't either. I don't. There's absolutely no evidence of this.
Open line of communication there.
I guarantee you, they're not just talking about foreign policy because Zohran Mamdani was very clear. He's the mayor of New York.
Yeah,
he doesn't talk about foreign policy until he does.
Apparently, Trump is also calling Elizabeth Warren and talking to her about his
credit card stuff.
Well, I mean, they absolutely agree. So it makes perfect sense. My wonder is if your statement that this stuff is bad for border enforcement is in fact true. We've effectively closed the border. In fact, Marco Rubio today, and I vehemently disagree with this, says that 75 countries now no longer, the residents of those countries can't even get a visa to come and visit here.
Yeah, that's bad. But I didn't mean, just to be clear, that as far as border enforcement, I meant only in a political way, of that is this good for your high numbers on immigration, which, helped propel you into the White House and sustained you for a little bit. Like, Biden had this opened up and now it's zero. People love that.
Right. But, this might be part of it.
I'm one of those people who
One
loves
of the
that,
reasons why it's zero might be precisely because this thing we don't like. That's what that's
for sure. But it's like, there's always these, this Jenga of these policies, because as you point out, it's like this is high and now all of a sudden, holy shit, why are the ICE numbers so low? Why are Donald Trump's numbers, and this is going back like 3-4 months before this woman is shot, we talked about on the show, those numbers for Donald Trump on how immigration policy is being enforced were diving, like precipitously dropping. And I was like, maybe I'm not paying attention to this issue as much as I should, because I was surprised by that. And I only mean that as far as Republican policy in a political way, because they think it's nothing but victories for them, because they understand Americans don't like illegal immigration. They particularly don't like it when people are getting money and they're illegal immigrants. And they really don't like it when they're committing crimes and they're illegal immigrants. And I think they're conflating all of that with the things that are happening now. And they might be in for a very rude awakening when it comes to midterms about this stuff.
One quick point, and this ties it to the Eddington and COVID thing this much, which is to say that once you become a papers, please country, enough that you can see it in certain places. And for instance, you can see it in Miami with Canadian tourists. They're being asked their papers, and they've changed the rules, so now you have to actually cough them up and show them. You can't just come here on a visa waiver and think that you can not be asked to show your paper within your 90 days of staying here. So if you look
on the street,
yeah, if you look like a Canadian, and Moynihan looks like a Canadian.
I'm usually in the comments called a homosexual Canadian. I don't know what that means. I don't know why people say that.
That is a kind of thing that even if it doesn't happen to you, you can see it around, and you can see it happen to another person on a TikTok video, and you're like, hold on. I am an American, and they're doing this to Americans in different contexts, that it's going to poll in the almost as bad as invading Greenland.
Yeah, I think that's the durability of American institutions that I was talking a lot about, which I still believe in and I think have held up. And we're seeing the Supreme Court in session now, and we'll see what happens with the tariff stuff. But I think a lot of that should be underlined by the durability of Americans' culture and their sort of ideas about constitutionality that are just kind of in the mother's milk. They don't really understand it, but they know that you just can't ask people in the street for their papers. Why is that? What amendment? Whatever. I just know you don't do that in America. That is an instinct that people have, and we're seeing that people don't like it. Do you want to, it's only on the internet and the dumb arguments that you see on the internet, in the political culture that has become so fucking stupid that it offends me, that's where it's happening, where you believe that there's two options: shoot the woman in the face, or
run them over.
Or be like a woman who's, having meetings on how to like disrupt ICE. There's not the two poles on this. Those are the two poles, but there's things in the middle of those poles, right? This idea that you can be for reasonable immigration enforcement, be happy that the border is not open to whoever wants to come in and claim asylum, and that was not a sustainable thing, nor was pitting people in friggin' hotel rooms in New York City and giving them, ATM cards. That wasn't sustainable, right? We understand that. And by the way, is there not another option but shooting women in the face 3 times? And do we not live in a culture, and we do live in a political culture, and this is the most depressing thing about it, is Tony DeCouple, who is the new
CBS anchor.
Anchor is the anchor of CBS News.
CBS Evening News.
Which I think is, he's getting worked over, and Tony's a very old friend of mine, and I like him quite a bit. He's a very smart guy. He interviews Trump on this, and he asked him about this issue, and he thought it necessary, and he's not wrong. I think this is a very good thing to do.
Tony
says to the president, this woman's father was a supporter of yours. And he says, good. Trump says good, which is the most horrendous response. You're back on your heels. But we are in a culture where people know that to say to Donald Trump that the father supported you, and that will affect the way you answer this question.
As opposed to citizen.
Yeah, I don't care who the father supported. Was this justifiable or not? Is there something that come out that says I'm open-minded? I'm not ideological about this. But we are actually in that culture too, that Donald Trump is like, great. And then his answer was a lot softer, actually. I think because of that. And that is terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have the video. Maybe this is a good point to transition to Iran, because Tony also talked to the president about that. Yeah. And as they're having this interaction, they're talking about it, and he informs him, tomorrow they're supposed to start hanging people. Yeah. To which Trump responds, and this is like vintage Trump, this is the first I'm hearing about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you, Tony.
I don't know about you. I don't know where you come from.
Great looking guy, Tony.
But we do have that? Okay.
Americans woke up this morning and they saw that you said help is on the way.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there's a lot of help on the way, and in different forms, including economic help from our standpoint, and not going to help Iran very much. And, we put Iran out of business with their nuclear capacity, and now, depending on what's actually happening, nobody's been able to give us accurate numbers about how many people they've killed.
Well, on that point,
but it looks
Mr.
like
President,
it could be a pretty substantial number, and that's going to be a lot of problems for them.
A lot of problems. On that point, you did say the U.S. would get involved if Iran started killing protesters. Yeah. They have, by the many thousands, according to reports.
Well, we'll see what that is. I've heard 2 numbers, but we'll see what that is.
Well, now we're hearing that they're going to start hanging protesters tomorrow. So it comes back to the question, have they crossed your red line, or has the line moved?
I haven't heard about the hanging. If they hang them, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they do such a thing, we will take very strong action.
And this strong action you're talking about, what's the end game?
He meant,
the end game is to win.
On my side.
I like winning.
How do you define that in Iran?
Well, let's define it in Venezuela. Let's define it with al-Baghdadi. He was wiped out. Let's define it with Soleimani. And let's define it in Iran, where he wiped out their Iran nuclear threat in a period of about 15 minutes once the B-2s got there. And that was a complete obliteration, as it turns out, which is what I said initially. Then some questioned it, and they said, Trump was right. So we've been right about everything. We don't want to see what's happening in Iran happen. And, if they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them. It's not going to work out good.
Latest reporting, I'm seeing headlines that suggest within 24 hours from The Guardian, certainly could be sooner than that. I don't think anyone doubts at this stage that the United States is very likely to conduct strikes in Iran now. I mean, almost certainly. Yeah. And I'm very curious about the universe of things that are going on here. But Moynihan, you know the region far better than me. I'm curious what your take is on this. And do we have a better sense of what the numbers are? I've heard as low as like I think we all know a lot
more than Donald Trump does. I don't know. He's like, Soleimani? I was like, you mean Soleimani? He's like, yeah,
that might be on purpose.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not on purpose. Beautiful dogs. Yeah. The best. No, I mean, by the way, how long before Barry Weiss is blamed for any strikes on Iran because Tony DeCouple informed Trump. He's like, is that true? I hadn't heard that.
Oh man,
you're going to be very happy. Yeah, it's like that. They couldn't.
Maybe they will. Jeez.
I mean, good Lord. Anti-Semites are very skilled at blaming Jews for everything. Yeah.
I'm not being rude, as you know. I don't look at my phone during a podcast, but just wanted to see what the latest is. And Reuters, all the signals are that a U.S. attack is imminent. Western military official says it's Reuters, so don't believe them. But
I think that's probably true. And we can look at the poly market kind of predictions on that. It was down, 8%, 7%, 9% for the previous days, and now it's going up.
What about the pizza tracker?
But he's the guy that fakes that. We'll talk about that later. But look, I think that what they will do is Donald Trump is pretty consistent about the non-boots on the ground thing, with the exception of special forces doing things like the Maduro stuff. I do think the Basij headquarters, or various places where the Basij, which are the militias that come out and kill people, and the Revolutionary Guards will be hit. What they'll be hoping for, I think, is that people are there and they actually kill some people. They kill some of these, and I wouldn't mind if people in the Revolutionary Guards were wiped out in a strike. Do I think it's the best idea? That's a different story. I mean, just, wish casting all the bad people in the world would go away is what I'm doing. But I think that they will do something. It's very hard in a situation like this, and there are not a lot of examples in recent history anyway, of a very entrenched regime. I mean, keeping in mind how long this regime has been in power since 1979, that has very sophisticated security services, that doesn't mind killing people. The thing that unraveled the Soviet Union was the fact that, for the most part, they didn't open fire on their own citizens. That was true in Romania. That was true when people were crossing the border from going around from East Germany through Hungary into Austria, et cetera. And it happened there's the anniversary, but the other day in Lithuania where 11 people were killed. And that was, I think Gorbachev even denounced that. That was like a kind of an anomaly for the whole situation.
11 people were killed in 1991.
91, yeah. In this situation in Iran, they have been very, very clear in the past that not only do they not mind killing people, they sort of enjoy it. They make a spectacle of it. Now we're seeing a kid, and this has been confirmed, by the way, this kid who's this young kid. He looks, not unlike any person that would walk by you. He's got like a puffer jacket on, looks like a young, like good-looking kid who is going to be hanged in, I think, today. That was the idea.
Yeah, I saw that.
And if they hang him today, if that's going to be the trigger for Trump, maybe it will be. Because the thing about Trump, and I think this is very, very clear, I don't know the guy, I've actually never met him, I've been in the same room a million times. It seems to be clear that a lot of the reporting on this is that if you personalize that one guy, and there is a really harrowing thing in the New York Times that his family is allowed to see him one more time. They're allowed to come in and see him before they murder him. And that's it. There's no visitations right now. There's no lawyers. There's no nothing. This is one of the most evil regimes on earth. It governs, quote unquote. It oppresses over 90 million people. It has one of the most impressive diasporas in the world. I met a guy in Italy last summer, who I was speaking Swedish with, and he had a bit of his accent. He's Iranian, lived in Sweden. There's tons of Iranians in Sweden. Who's the best player on the New York Rangers? Arguably.
I don't know.
Mika Zibanejad. Why does he have Zibanejad? What kind of name is that? It's an Iranian name. He's Swedish. He's a Swede in Iran, right? The only time a Swede and Iranian's ever going to play the NHL was because the fucking mullahs forced his family into Sweden, like LA and like so many of these places. If there is a strike, much like Venezuela, this is why it's so different than Iraq in the past, Afghanistan. A strike, beyond a strike, I think you're in a lot of trouble. A couple of strikes here, people will be on the streets of LA.
Oh, yeah.
People will be on the streets in Stockholm. People will be on the streets in Berlin.
I was going to say people are going to be in the streets in favor of it in LA, which is also going to happen.
No, that's what I mean. This is in favor. I'm talking about Iranians. I'm not talking about white people.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people that are actually the victims of these regimes who actually care about them falling. And I don't know if that will do it. Probably not. I hope so, but there is not a lot of examples in recent history of a regime who is perfectly willing to murder as many people. And the regime itself acknowledged a day and a half ago that they'd killed 2,000 people.
Yeah, that's
So do the math on that. Like,
and it was
the
after
real
that
number.
that we saw the reporting about this like really night of horrific overnight violence. And you were seeing these video clips, although it might be interesting to talk about, maybe not today, like how this is one of the first circumstances where there's an ongoing conflict, and the proliferation of all the AI technology means that you're getting tons and tons of fake clips, not just stuff from other conflicts, but images and video that apparently is completely AI generated and has to be like thoroughly verified. And they've cut off the internet in Iran, so no one knows what the hell is going on there. But something like 20,000 was the number that I heard floated around yesterday. And I don't know that we are any closer to confirming that. But even the fact that we're talking about that at all is astounding.
My
Four figures is
suggestion,
astounding.
One suggestion that we saw the lack of Iranian air defense. What I would suggest, Americans drop things over Gaza, take thousands of what was I say, Starlink? What am I trying to say? Is it Starlink?
Starlink, yeah.
Why do I think that? It sounds like a fake name all of a sudden to be
Yeah.
Starlink.
because you've never watched Star Trek.
Yeah, it sounds like Starlink. It sounds like a fake company like Zoran
No, it's
Industries.
real. Still a real
favorite
company.
and if you know it, you know it. You know it's Zoran Industries. I mean, pallets of Starlink capable thing, drop them on Tehran.
Yeah.
Just to start in Tehran. I mean, do that. Thousands parachutes with these things, drop them on Tehran. Start there. Try that. Try something like that. I am perfectly fine with intelligence services doing things to help protesters. I don't know why, particularly when it comes to the Iranian intelligence services, who have spread, violence, death, fear, panic, and murder across the globe. We know this is fact. I mean, they blew up a Jewish community center in Buenos Aires and killed, 90 people, something like that, 70, 80, 90 people. Iranians did that. And Jews in Argentina, soft target, right? I mean, the global reach of Iran for a very long time, including funding all of the scumbags that surround Israel and various scumbags in various other places in the world. Iran falls, Israel's not going to have to worry as much about Hezbollah on its border in that way. But I would encourage, I hope intelligence services, contra Anna Kasparian, I hope the intelligence services are doing things to help these protesters because how many protests have there been in Iran since 1979? In the past 15 years, there's been a number. A number of people have come out in the streets. It's been very impressive. A number of people have been shot and gunned down in the streets.
And to keep coming out after that
and
is
amazing.
It's
amazing.
amazing.
It's an inspirational story
really
of people who really, really desire freedom.
And this started with a currency crisis like back in December. But I mean, thinking about what's transpired over the course of the past couple of years in the region, does this happen if the people of Iran who are out in the streets don't have a credible belief that maybe the United States will help? Does this happen if the region hasn't been kind of purged of a lot of the various organizations that were able to kind of unleash hell on the United States? Well, not the United States, but the United States' allies in the regions. If what has transpired in the past 3 months, the crippling of Hezbollah.
There's absolutely no coincidence that people are out in the street now. I mean, the currency thing, inflation stuff, water is a big issue, obviously. And just if you just talk freedom in general, I don't think it's a coincidence that the regime has shown itself to be a paper tiger in a number of ways, that people feel emboldened by that. The fact they don't have air defenses doesn't mean they don't have AK-47s, which is all you need to gun down protesters who are unarmed, obviously. There's no armed resistance because it's a country that has been under a dictatorship for that long, and they've sown, people think, what happened in the mid to late 70s, the Shah had a secret police service that was notorious called the Savak, and the Savak had their eyes and ears everywhere, but not as, it's a completely different set of circumstances because the Shah, who everybody sneers at, was liberal enough to allow a illiberal group of people to take over the country. There was enough liberalism for that, right? And there's not enough liberalism after all of this time where you shut down the entire internet, right? Those images getting out are incredibly powerful for the world. We've seen these piles of body that stacked like cordwood. And it's been basically various videos of the same thing. And it all probably comes from the same camera. And it's like a pole, right? It's the indicative of a larger thing, but it's terrifying. And we have an image of it up now. Those are people crouching over people to try to identify them for people who have gone missing. 2000, as I said, the regime says there is a rights group that is a credible one based out of Norway that says 12,000. There's people who say 20,000.
I think Israeli intelligence had is at around 12,000.
About 12,000, yeah. And I mean, you have it's a big country. It's a very, very big country. And it seems that from what we know now, every major moderate city has people out in the streets. So that's what do you do in response to that if the United States hits various targets, military targets? The hope is that it emboldens people more because help isn't coming. 1956, as you know, in Hungary is a very, very famous example that Radio Free Europe in Hungarian exiles were basically promising the United States would come in after the Soviet tanks came in if you got out in the street and you fought them. And Americans never came.
Yeah.
And Eisenhower had no interest in doing that. And so that false promise I don't think will happen now because I think Iranians also know that the United States is not at this point in its foreign policy history interested in putting soldiers on the ground in Iran, especially because the largest bloodletting of American soldiers over the past 20 years have been the result of Iranians. I mean, one single group outside of somebody we've been fighting, right? There'll be Afghans and then Mujahideen from other areas in Afghanistan, Iraqis, foreign fighters, right? But the Iranians killed the estimate is 16, 17, 1,800 Americans of a total of about 3,500, 3,600, whatever it was, with roadside bombs, with Iranian-trained troops, with Iranian forces themselves. I mean, he talks about Soleimani. Where was Soleimani killed? In Iraq. He wasn't killed in Iran. These are important things to remember. So we have a stake in this. Everybody. I don't think that anything's going to happen after the strikes, but who knows? But the history does not suggest, recent Iranian history doesn't suggest that there's going to be any real movement, right? They can just keep killing people. They don't care.
Yes, and it is really hard to run a country when you have protests that large.
Correct.
Almost, let's say a solid majority of the time, if a country has continued protests, regardless of the of how much they're cracked down upon, day after day after day, this percentage of the population's on the streets saying we hate this regime and want it to end. Those regimes end usually. So there's that. But the other part is, Michael's absolutely right. It is supplanted in. This is a homegrown revolution, which is different than one imposed. One reason why a lot of the revolutions from Central and Eastern Europe were allowable is because those were kind of colonially occupied territories. And so people were really happy for them to go away. And the revolution didn't, whatever happened in Russia is a little bit different than how it happened.
It's funny to watch these boneheads in the U.S. and in Europe try to put a colonial lens on this. It's the only way they can see the world. I mean, Anna Kasparian, talking about the protests in Iran, she goes to Israel. It's insane to me. It's like shocking in a way. And I just wanted to, because I after that episode, I went online. I've been kind of taking a break from a lot of that stupid online discourse to see how far this had penetrated pretty far of the idea. And she was, well, there's evidence. Where's the evidence? I don't know what this evidence is. That the Israelis, because when you're obsessed with Israel, as she acknowledged she was obsessed with Israel, you find Israel everywhere. You find an Israeli hand almost everywhere. And Israel, of course, has been being attacked by Iranian proxies since 1979.
And has very impressive intelligence in Iran.
Intelligence in Iran, and had a drone factory in Iran that selling shit on Temu from Iran, and it's like, yes, of course they're there, But to deny the agency of the Iranian people who have lived under this boot heel for so long, you don't. I mean, it is embarrassing to think when you see these videos that are like 50,000 people, as far as the eye can see, that the mustache twisting Jews can be behind this. And come the fuck on now. Or saying there was a woman who was a professor at Yale who got fired because she was being investigated. Did you see this? For support for this Palestinian group that is a prescribed terrorist organization, Samudin or whatever it's called. And she was fired for it. And there was a video of her. Was a law professor, adjunct maybe at Yale, saying, well, you have to understand, in a colonial context, these police are not the same as American police. Because, we're opposed to the police in America. But the police here, this is because of, and then it's just colonial, it's just a bunch of academic blather to basically say they support the regime.
To come out on the other side of it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of points in the Central European context that I think are worth thinking about to follow up on what Michael was saying. One is the rise of communications technology and the support of it. There's a great moment during the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia that's one of these great sort of protest urban legends that was also true. Out of nowhere, November 1989, while Václav Havel and the dissidents were like meeting at the Magic Lantern Theater every night or the National Theater too, and beginning the process of negotiations, and weird stuff is going on, and we don't know how this is going to end, a Japanese businessman shows up with 20 fax machines. Because they needed to communicate with the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I was once, our newspaper in Prague in August of 1991, we were the outlet of a besieged student newspaper in Moscow sending us faxes because they wanted to let us know what was happening during the coup. These lifelines are incredibly important. And I'm with Michael in saying, that's a legitimate role for America and America's intelligence services to do whatever we can to enable people who are fighting against authoritarian governments to have access to that communication. Super totally important for 1,000 different reasons. Other thing Michael brought up was 1956, which was incredibly contentious in American conservative circles for decades, for absolute decades. Americans identified with Hungarian 56ers. James Michener wrote a book about this. My stepdad was a college student, I think, at the time. It's burned into his memory, the 56ers of Hungary, because they took over the streets for 10 days. They had the whip hand, and they were like, we're doing the revolution, fuck the commies, fuck the Ruskies, and there was pitched battles in the streets. And yes, they had been given the sense by these exiles on Radio Free Europe that maybe the U.S. was going to come or the CIA was going to come. Go ahead, go out there. You're being supported. And that didn't happen, and there's a lot of upset about that. I've always had wrestled with the concept, but come out in conclusionary terms of we were right not to go. We were right not to have World War III over Budapest. Budapest in 56, Prague and Czechoslovakia in 1968, Poland and East Germany in 1953, Poland during the Solidarity. There are all these moments that could have been superpower conflict and which you could easily talk yourselves into what a lot of conservatives and Cold War hawks did at the time. They're like, we got to do something. These are our absolute people out there. They're being brave as hell. It's inspiring. Their government really, really sucks. We got to do something militarily. We didn't, and I still think that was the right decision to do.
Yeah, I mean, the argument then, and it's kind of the argument now too, after Venezuela, and we'll see what happens in Iran. But if you give every one of those citizens an AK-47, does 1968 in Prague happen? Does 72, 73 in Poland, and then 80 in Poland, all that stuff, martial law, does all that happen after? That's what the administration is gambling with in Iran now, is here's one, we're going to keep killing them, we're going to do another. You're not going to last very long if we keep doing this. I mean, that's the idea, and will that work? And Trump, unfortunately, thinks everything is the same across the world. What happened in Venezuela, so we can do it there. We're on a high now. We can do it in Iran. Iran's a completely different kettle of fish, and I'm worried about that in pretty serious ways. But the problem, and particularly in this anti-imperialist lens here, is that if we are supporting people on the ground, and I think we absolutely should be supporting people on the ground, through what organization, it doesn't matter because in the end, it's all going to be CIA. It could be NED, CIA. It's all going to be CIA, right?
Please, it's the company.
It will tarnish the revolution, the people's revolution, in the eyes of academics and idiots in the United States. The people in Iran will know exactly what they're doing, exactly why they're there, and that they created this revolution. The same thing as Poland's a great example of. There's a great book about this, a recent book about this, of the material support that so many civil rights organizations, civil service organizations, printing books in Polish, that the CIA gave. And that support. And like, it's never in Poland. Imagine telling people that it was the CIA that actually freed you from the Soviet yoke. They would spit in your face.
Yeah.
Because it's our revolution. That is also true in Iran. And if the United States helps rid the planet of this hideous regime, good. Do I want them arming them directly? No, I don't. Because it's like, we're talking about ICE officers not being trained. Let's not just give random people in Iran weapons. Then they have the excuse to shoot them all in the streets and say it's a battle.
You're a little more responsible for what happens afterwards.
But they don't give a shit really anyway, so it doesn't matter. But
I'm curious where you guys want to go because there's a couple of things we could talk about. We haven't really talked about Jerome Powell and the rather unprecedented fact that the Justice Department is going after the current Fed chair. This is an escalation in this conflict that has existed between President Trump and Powell, who President Trump apparently, I think it was last year that he had forgotten that he was the guy who actually nominated him, suggested that he didn't know why Joe Biden had made this pick. Joe Biden held on to your pick, but whatever. And I saw reporting today, this afternoon actually, and I think I sent it to you guys. I don't know if you saw it. A Washington Post reporter has their home raided by the FBI.
Sent it too, actually.
And it's not, you did too? Okay. So it's not unusual for the federal government to get entangled with a journalist and to put some pressure on them to try to get stuff out of them. It is very unusual for them to raid their home.
To raid their house and take their laptop.
And this is the first contact that she has had with Justice, apparently, reportedly. So all of this is very interesting, and it all is kind of consistent with this weaponization of the Justice Department that the Trump administration has leveraged, although they're denying, it sounds like, that they're at all involved with the Jerome Powell decision, which just does not seem credible at all.
Stop. I mean, it also ties back in with Minneapolis for a second. Don't forget, like a half a dozen members, I think, of the local U.S. attorney there quit rather than participate in an investigation against the alleged domestic terrorist ties of the woman who got shot.
Well, no, her wife.
Of her wife. Okay.
Yes. Which is in a way like even more morbid.
It's
your wife, your spouse has just been murdered.
Morbid, I think,
or not murdered. I keep saying murdered, and that is because I think I'm kind of emotionally entangled in the story. But I am willing to wait for the results of the investigation. Yeah. I'm willing to acknowledge that the circumstances are complicated. Yes, the officer was hit. He was also standing in front of the car. It's like pulling out a gun, switching the camera to his other hand. Like there's a lot there. So I don't want to say murdered. Either way, she's gone. And she certainly didn't wake up that morning thinking, I'm going to run over an ICE officer today.
You don't know that.
It doesn't seem that way. Right. There's not a lot of indication of that. If that's what you're going to do, you don't kind of drop off the kids at school. And I'm not mad at you, dude. Like, it's bizarre. Like, the outcome is
Point being just that this corruption of the Justice Department is, on one hand, routine under Trump, and on the other hand, sometimes you need a needle scratch. And Jerome Powell speaking to camera on Sunday night for 2 minutes, just describing, I don't give a shit about Jerome Powell as a human being, one way or the other, or the Federal Reserve on some level. It was one of the great acts under the second Trump administration. He just said, he called things by their proper names, as some people will say. It's just like, this is an absolutely politicized prosecution or investigation, and I ain't here for it. And that is correct. It is, Trump came in and he fired got rid of most of the inspectors general in the federal government, which sounds boring.
Which probably contributed to what's happening at Homeland, too.
But it's internal watchdogs to make sure that the various agencies and departments in the federal government are not running amok and abusing, for example, their police power. He's done nakedly retributive. I did it.
Good.
Retributive.
Whatever.
It's all right. We'll do a different syllable each day.
Got to try them all against James Comey, against Letitia James. It's terrible, right? He had people who voted for him because they were sick of and disgusted by, and rightly so, the lawfare investigations into him. And there was some definite lawfare, the 34 counts of election fraud that he did by paying money to Stormy Daniels. Get the fuck out of here with this garbage. That was garbage. It should have never come. So you're right about that. And so the response to that isn't to do even more ridiculous lawfare against people just because you're sort of mad at them.
And there's
it's
not
absolutely corrupting.
It's not going to ever be like a commensurate response. When people say, "Oh, they did it to us, we're going to do it to them." Okay, where does that end?
It doesn't.
No, it's not going to end. We're just going to do the entire administration. We're not going to do something that's commensurate. Like, well, they did this, we'll do that. We'll do this, that person. Like, they do select people who did, the Tish Jameses of the world. Like, we're going to select you and we're going to do things that will make your life difficult because you specifically made our lives difficult.
Shifty shift.
That is still insane and wrong, but it's gone so much further than that. Like, you don't think that these people love the power of the executive in stretching that to a point where it's lawless because of lawfare? Talking about lawfare as a defense for lawlessness is completely insane to me. But if you see this, like, I think always the most basic thing, and it's so boring, and it's like, what people do in a high school debate class, but it's actually incredibly useful in situations like this because the number of people I know and I agreed with during the Biden administration who were like, this is a banana republic. Look at this stuff. It is actually worth saying, and I'm sorry this is so boring, to say, what if Biden did this? I know. What if it was the other way around? I know how boring, it's like a sixth grader making an argument, but it is actually useful to picture the exploding heads of these brain dead MAGA influencers who are totally fine with this. Like, oh, shockingly, you never believed in the rule of law. You believed in your cult and you don't believe in the Constitution. That was at least the good thing about conservatives of the past. They pretended. A lot of times they actually did express and display fealty to the American Constitution. I remember the Glenn Beck thing when I went to his ranch when he was so mad at Trump. He said, "I'm never voting for this guy, and I'm voting for the American Constitution Party."
Yeah,
I remember that.
And I was like, "Who's this motherfucker?" And it was some guy who had guns like this and a cowboy hat, and he's
Daryl
like, "You're on my land."
Probably.
And I don't know who. It was. And calling them as you see them, people who are right, who I think are wrong about a lot of stuff these days. Glenn Greenwald, I think, is wrong about a lot these days, did tweet something the other day about remembering when conservatives were worried about federal agents, crawling through their land and, who are the guys?
Alien Gonzalez.
No, but not even that. Who are the guys out there? The Mormon guys?
The Bundy Ranch?
The Bundys.
Yeah.
The Bundy, like that kind of
Producer
stuff.
Jason.
Yeah.
Weird how you knew that really quickly, didn't you,
I called
Jason Bundy?
Yeah. No, he's actually Ted Bundy. Yeah, Ted just admitted. But no, this kind of stuff of imagining that and realizing that the modern conservative movement believes in nothing but the power of their, I don't have a problem saying with this, but their cult. I mean, we can talk about this Nick Shirley guy.
Well, that's
and a celebration of this. These are our new journalists. And can we look at him? I just want to see this. This guy is the guy that did the video in Minneapolis.
In
the Minneapolis video,
the daycare center video,
and now he's reporting. And I saw all this stuff like this guy. He's the future of journalism. We are no longer with the MSM. And I want to give you the guy who is the Walter Cronkite of this generation.
Who do you think are the three most benevolent billionaires?
What do you mean by the word benevolent?
Just well-intentioned, positive billionaires who you think are creating, net positive societal progress.
Trump, our president.
Are we pronunciation shaming?
On
this podcast?
That's not the only clip. That's not the only clip.
The pronunciation isn't the problem. He doesn't know what the word benevolent means.
By the way, I want to give credit to Andrew Callahan for not pissing his pants there and just continuing with the question. Because, when somebody says to me, what do you mean by bazazapint? And I'm like, are you having a fucking stroke? Put a wallet in this guy's mouth. He can swallow his fucking tongue. But this is another clip, because he did a video in Ukraine.
Why are all these children
which
talking
was
on
even
camera?
dumber?
Shirley came to Ukraine and made this video. And I'm talking about this right now because the vice president has literally just said that this guy is the best journalist in the world. But that doesn't quite add up, because when I confronted Nick about what he did here in Kyiv, he said what he was doing wasn't journalism, it was satire. And his entire reporting started to fall apart. Look at this. So here's the caption you put up. $175 billion goes a long way. This is the capital of Ukraine. What was the idea of the original tweet?
To show that what is happening in Ukraine, and to show that people are still living a somewhat normal life in certain areas such as Kyiv.
Well, I think what you were doing is to try and show that there maybe isn't a war in Ukraine. You were basically trying to ride this sort of Tim Pool grifter type wave, saying, pulling silly faces, smirking at the people of this country, saying, this is where your tax dollars are going. You cannot avoid that. That's what you were doing. Why can't you admit that?
Because I do not believe by making satire on the internet commits a crime by any means.
He doesn't know what
Okay, so
he's going back.
This is a huge revelation. So you were actually doing satire?
In that post.
So it was satire?
Is there anything wrong with satire?
Okay, so you're telling me now that this was a joke and it's satire and this wasn't your actual reporting, this wasn't you being a journalist?
What do you mean?
Well, you were being satirical, right? You were joking. You're saying that this tweet was satire. The original report that you put out on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter was satire.
That was the first video I put out, and if you continue to follow me and watch the videos that will be coming out, you will very much see.
No, I've seen the backtracking, but why didn't you make it clear that it was satire?
Isn't that very obvious that it's clear that it's satire?
All right.
He doesn't know what satire is.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. So when you said this unfair, Matt, one word, I'm speech pleasing. The guy literally normally talks like a Serbian cab driver. He's just like, I do the post on the satire, very good, very fun times. And like J.D. Vance, like best journalist in America. Yeah. And there's been a lot of that stuff that this guy, who seems to be having like a series of cascading strokes every time I see him talking in public, is the alternative to the terrible MSM.
Mm-hmm. There's a twist on this that I would also like to register at least some discomfort with, let's say, or like fatigue about. So one is elevating this as this is the alternative to the MSM, and not
the vice president did that,
and not the vice president he's the vice president of this corner of American society, for sure. Is like you're not replacing the old media ecosystem with anything like a useful informational ecosystem, which doesn't mean that his report from Somalia, or not Somalia, from Minnesota, whoops.
Trust me, he doesn't know the difference either.
Maybe I have some affinity with him. You can do useful work. James O'Keefe can do useful work. A lot of people can do useful work in the middle of doing a bunch of garbage too, politicized garbage, but you still haven't built anything like a better mousetrap. But the other version of this that which is kind of separate, but I'd also like to complain about, I can see it everywhere. It's on the Free Press, Persuasion, all over Twitter all the time, is like, where are you, New York Times, about Iran? You don't even care about the protests in Iran. Like they have obviously been reporting on this. Like people are so hardwired to say the left doesn't care about this, the right doesn't care about this, and above all, the media doesn't care about this. These can be generalized, directionally kind of true, but also like, how about just replacing your informational desires or just creating it yourself? How about like doing some of that work instead of just like policing everybody's headlines and tweets and making sure that the language is just so, and then making broad strokes generalizations that oftentimes collapse when you engage in any kind of scrutiny, like, oh yeah, they actually did cover X, Y, and Z, which happens.
I think it's a volume thing about early. They don't see this stuff early.
Yeah, but the
because they're
irony
not
here,
young.
though, is that Shirley, he actually does exactly what you just described in the Channel 5 interview. Like, why didn't you talk about Charlie Kirk? And he's like,
that was guy who watched that video. He's like,
I did talk about Charlie
that,
Kirk.
by the way, is
he's like,
my
well, I
favorite.
didn't see it on Twitter. He's like, I did an interview with the guy he was talking to, and I just kept pointing out like why this was terrible and it shouldn't have happened. He's like, well, I didn't watch the interview. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow, that's, by the way, giving him way too much credit. He sounds incredibly articulate when you do that. But I saw that because that has become this kind of like emergency button that you push as like one of these dummies. Like, well, what about Charlie Kirk? And it's like, no, I wrote that piece about how I love people getting shot for their political beliefs. Yeah, that's this kind of trump card is like, well, it's dumb people whataboutism is, I should just do like do they still have Tumblr?
No.
Can I do a dumb people whataboutism of Tumblr?
I haven't been on it.
God, I don't know where it would live, but we just do a segment here.
Alternative whataboutism watch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone engages in it, of course, but when you are being pushed on this stuff and he's like, well, you didn't do the Charlie Kirk benevolent thing. It's like, what happened? Because he learned the word. He's just saying it randomly.
I think I'm a little closer than you.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm being too generous.
I actually couldn't believe how stupid he was.
I mean, he's 23 years old, I think.
Do you know how smart I was at 23?
If I was like that when I was 23,
yeah.
Do you think I'd become a fucking journalist?
Well, you didn't have.
I would have been.
You didn't have
like,
1.2 million Twitter followers at 23.
God,
it's true. It's amazing.
But that's what did he have before that? Can we get a fact check on this, Jason? This might be a hard one, so maybe see if
we'll have to do some research.
ChatGPT can do it. How many followers did that dummy? What's his name?
Nick Shirley.
Why are they all called Nick?
Every bad
the
person
Fuentes, the Shirley, like the racists, the half-wits, the half-wit racists.
And Nick
how many
Gillespie.
did he have before his Somali expose?
Oh,
when he realized that that's their culture.
That's not going to be easy to come by.
Did you see that? I think it was in the one when he's like, "Well, they do it because like that's their culture." About
yes.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Somalia? And it's you're supposed to say pirates.
Yeah.
Because that's why this is happening. It's
yeah.
piracy. It's in their blood.
Like pirates.
It's in their genes.
But I have to say, Andrew Callen's very funny in this. Although he's dressed like they just pulled him off the street.
No, he's dressed like fucking Ali G.
Yeah. I had a Phillies jersey on.
Yo, man.
And he's like, why is you like Somalis? Like, but he's like, well, you know, piracy is different, and it's a very funny interview. And I give him a lot of credit because I think he's a very smart guy, Andrew Callahan. I like what he does, and although he's getting very political, which he has
been for a while actually.
Maybe I'm just watching him in the wrong way, but he used to be a little more separate from politics. Mm-hmm. But he asked the right questions. He's good about it. He contains himself in the interview, doesn't scream at the guy. But like having a debate with him about pirates and piracy is pretty funny. He seems to have known everything he knows about pirates.
I mean, Nick was the one pushing it. Yeah.
I don't know about the growth, but here's some of his humble brags about the goal.
My video on the expose of the fraud in Minnesota is the most viewed video ever by a creator, longer than 10 minutes than anybody other than the name of Mr. Beast. Altogether, it did around 500 million views.
Who do you think were the main people who signal boosted the video and brought it into that true viral orbit?
Elon Musk, who shared the video. JD Vance, he shared the video. You had the Attorney General, well, she actually didn't share it. She reacted to the video a few days later. Literally, quite frankly, every account on X saw that video instantaneously. Health and Human Services, they froze all funding to childcare inside of Minnesota, and then they're asking for businesses to prove that they are legit businesses before they give tax dollars to these businesses that are not really businesses.
As far as that main center that you visited, Quality Learning, aka Quality Learning Center.
It turns out, look, that there has been fraud.
Yes.
It also turns out that a lot of his reporting was profoundly
also fraud?
suspect. Showing up off office hours and wondering why you can't get inside. Also wondering why they won't just let you into the daycare center.
Yeah.
It's totally absurd.
Yeah, let the guy with the camera into the office full of children. Why would you not do that? No, but that's the point. I mean, this is the point of journalism. I mean, this is what we try to do here. That if we don't have trust with our viewers and listeners, we don't have a show. Why the hell would you I have to fact check everything that Matt says and Kmele says and Mike says.
Me, yeah.
And you just make things up. But you get things wrong. There's honestly get things wrong a lot. I mean, I've thought about things I said. I was like, wait, did I get that exactly right? And does it deserve a correction or whatever?
But he's thriving. He doesn't care.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing we discovered about media in Trump world. I mean, we've talked about this before, the number of people that said, how many Pinocchios are we going to give it? We'll slay this beast of misinformation by having fact checkers. It's like, no one cares. No one cares. It's narrative building and it's narrative resuscitation of a new story every time.
But I think people actually do care.
There are people who do, but there's enough people to make this guy rich
to overinflate. I mean, I give.
I mean, he is truly a fucking moron.
I give him credit for his
our
video.
business.
Yeah,
and you're one of us. I don't think it's the same thing. I'm sorry to say.
He doesn't know what the word journalism means. Did you notice that?
No. But my favorite, I love the small things. My favorite, he was like, and it did very well. It was something like, it did very well on Twitter, frankly. And I was like, well, thank you for speaking frank about this matter.
I stand up for people who are out there doing even flawed citizen journalism and getting some interest in there. And if you find someone who's doing that, who's doing a good but imperfect job, instead of declaring them the second coming of Jesus Christ of journalism or whatever, encourage them to do better next time. And hey, you got that good one. That was good. Good on you. And now up your game. That's it. You don't have to over exaggerate just because someone went viral is in itself this grand success. It's not necessarily. I think in his case, I'm gonna give him that success. That's great. That he was able to do this and it did.
What if 50% of it is wrong?
That's bad.
That's
super bad.
ICE officers are on the streets of Minnesota basically in reaction to this guy's video.
Well, he can't be responsible for
I don't know if that causal relationship is true.
What people do. But it also...
But no, I mean there's knock-on effects of bad journalism.
It's not insignificant. Yeah,
it's not insignificant.
There was a lot of attention as on account of the reporting.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't watched his video.
But this followed. I think this was after the Walls resignation. So we'd known that there was some stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, Armin Rosen's very well-reported piece came months before, and there's been some other sporadic reporting on this.
Chris Rufo wrote something about it too, which did a lot of numbers.
Which was based on Armin stuff. But other people had done it, and so those things are important.
And I do think in that vacuum, it is fair to point out, I think, that 60 Minutes wasn't really there doing an expose on that particular story. It's the sort of thing that plenty of people were happy to ignore. Well, it wasn't top of mind for them until it became a real issue for conservatives.
I mean, even in the beginning, the story came out,
in the beginning, they were kind of like, "Oh, well, are you sure?"
Yeah. Well, let's think of top of mind of things that have not received the Nick Shirley treatment.
Of course,
right? PPP loans. How many of those went out? How many people that's just a black box of money that everyone, not us, took huge piles of. And there's fraud all over that. Of course there is. The ongoing unemployment insurance, the disability insurance system in this entire country. Sounds boring, disability insurance. How come we have more people on disability in this country than any other Western country by a factor of an incredible amount? No one really talks about that. How come every public sector union, especially in blue cities, have this kind of thing where the last year of your career is going to determine your pension, so you're going to take disability and you're going to triple time, overtime here, and you're going to get paid like an absolute fucking king for the rest of your life. It's absolutely bullshit, and it happens all the time, and there aren't Nick Shirley videos necessarily about this. There isn't journalism done.
Or the government's in the administration's entanglement with various crypto scams.
Scams, nonprofits that do all this kind of shit that we actually were talking about with Anna Kasparian earlier. There's all this corruption, and some of it is videotastic, and it's the responsibility of all of journalism to be trying to reveal some of this stuff. and not only just to like chase someone who went viral and say, oh my God, someone went viral. Now let's reorient everything, including like, how dare you not follow the kid who went viral? Like there's a ton of stories out there in the
in a story like that, in a partisan story. I mean, extreme partisanship in media is fine with me. I could give a shit about it. I mean, partisans can come up with very good stories for kind of base motives. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like it'll get to the truth, fine. But the problem is you have to be good at it in the sense that and have some sort of trustworthiness. That was the thing with James O'Keefe. That, like, wait, can we trust this guy? Now we've seemed to have abandoned all of that stuff so much that up to the vice president tweeting about the quality of him as a journalist. He's not a journalist. He's barely a functionally literate person, as far as I can tell. And it's like, if you don't know what benevolent is, and you're like, you don't even know what the word means, that's usually an indication. It's not super mean guys. It's usually an indication this is not somebody who's particularly sharp or kind of trained in these areas. If you're a guy who doesn't have basic vocabulary skills and seems to kind of twitch when somebody says, the premise of your story is that there are cars, some of them are BMWs in Ukraine. That was the pitch? I'm sorry. How about the ones that were blown up by the hypersonic missile the other day that were nice cars? Yeah, Ukraine has a lot of corruption, has historically. It has a lot of natural resources. It has a lot of people in various industries that are very important.
Don't forget the raw earth minerals.
The raw dog minerals. That's a different thing. I mean, this guy is that my basic thing is, please don't be the people, and regular mainstream journalists, by the way, are incredibly guilty of this too, but they're just better educated and can hide it. But I don't like people who are teaching while learning. It's like, try to know what you're talking about before you show up, and like show up in Ukraine and say, oh, can you believe it? Oh, curious, we're giving them money and private citizens have cars. I think this guy's going to do a bang-up job on untangling fraud in Minneapolis. It's like, I don't know, man. It just depresses me. It just depresses me. Get better partisans. And by the way, it's a very, very bad look for conservatives when your biggest hit speaks English like somebody, it's like his fifth language. I mean, is that the person you want to put out for the new media? Like, we have OAN in that guy. Whew.
It's the Moynihan elitism episode.
I don't even
Speaking
think
English
it's
is not elitist.
I don't think
it used to be right wing.
Yeah.
It used to be Tom Tancredo. Speak fucking English. It used to be the right wing thing. But I'm just saying it to a white.
White.
I just say also to a white.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how long we've been doing this. We probably need to tap out of here.
Yeah.
We'll be back soon with more exciting stuff. So
got another historians episode coming out on Friday.
Oh, do you?
Well, not historians, revolutionaries.
Oh, okay. Great.
Don't even know the name of your own series.
Whatever.
But that's for subscribers only, right?
Yes. Yeah. Go to wethefifth.com and become a paying subscriber, and you get all of our at least weekly members only episodes. You also get to comment and chat, which is a pretty vigorous and fun place to be. So go there.
You can complain there.
Yep. Play in there.
Yeah,
no one does that. And also, by the way, if you made it this far into the episode and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, which is /WeTheFifth, that's what we are, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I've had enough of it by the time I leave. I don't go to the YouTube channel. But that's it. Go subscribe there. Drive up the numbers. It's good for us. It's good for everybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
We know of new methods of attack. The Trojan horse.